Hey there. So, if you've noticed that the people in your life tend to be a bit self centered, egotistical, maybe even a bit narcissistic, you may have a habit of people pleasing. And while it sounds like an admirable disposition on the surface, people pleasing is actually a dysfunctional tendency that attracts unhealthy relationships and drains us of valuable energy. So, in today's mini course, I'm going to share with you one simple rule or boundary you can set for yourself that will heal your people pleaser habit and completely transform the quality of your relationships. Hey there, I'm Danielle D'Onofrio, healing and personal development coach, here to help you break through the generational cycles and false belief systems that keep you from creating a life you love. My signature methodology, Rehab for Everyone, offers a bold new approach to personal transformation by bridging the gap between traditional healing and performance-based success habits. Be sure to grab my free ebook for an inside look at the Rehab for Everyone lifestyle methodology. Inside the ebook, you'll find an overview of the survival-based identity causing many of our adult struggles, how Rehab for Everyone works as an effective and sustainable path to personal transformation, an intro to the 4 core categories that comprise the lifestyle: boundaries, movement, exploration, and energetic self-care, and how to apply the Rehab for Everyone lifestyle to your life. There's a link to download it in the description below. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I release a new video each and every week to help support your journey of igniting and sustaining positive personal change. Okay, let's dive into this mini course. Here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll go over what people-pleasing actually is, because awareness and the ability to identify a dysfunctional behavior is the first step toward making positive change for ourselves. Then we'll talk about the negative impact people-pleasing has on our relationships, as well as why it feels so hard and even a little scary to break the habit. Next, I'll share a bit about how people-pleasing used to show up for me, followed by the one simple boundary or rule I set for myself that helped me stop people-pleasing and attract much healthier relationships into my life. I will be moving quickly, so please know that there is a blog version of this course. I'll include a link in the description below. Also, I'm using visual slides to go through this course, but there's nothing that you have to see here. Listening to the audio is perfectly fine. Okay, so let's define people-pleasing. People-pleasing is when we act out the belief that we must do and be things for other people to be liked, loved, and secure. It's a belief based in fear that we are not good enough as we are, that people will disappear or will be shamed if we don't work tirelessly to earn our position in our relationships. In day-to-day life, this looks like saying yes to things when we really want to say no, giving our time, energy, or money to others outside of the traditional giving contexts, like bringing someone a gift for no reason, or, helping when help isn't requested or wanted, and sacrificing our needs and desires for the needs and desires of other people, or to keep the peace. Now, why is it important to heal your people-pleaser habit? Because nothing good comes from people-pleasing. It's a dysfunctional behavior that feeds the false perception of a real relationship. But really, it drains our energy because we're directing our time and focus toward inauthentic interactions. It detracts us from journeying closer to our own personal authenticity, which is where true happiness, fulfillment, and freedom exist. And it perpetuates the cycle of unhealthy relationships in our lives, because really only dysfunctional, toxic people are attracted to people pleasers. And because people-pleasing is actually manipulative and controlling, and those are not character traits we want to carry with us throughout our lives. I'm sure you can articulate some of your own reasons why people-pleasing isn't working in your life, right? It's always important to ground ourselves in the why around why we're making a change, because it helps to keep us moving forward when things feel tough. I remember when I got to a point of just feeling exhausted and frustrated with myself for trying so hard all the time with people. I thought I had to try that hard to keep people around in my life. But when I finally realized that not only did I have to not try so hard, but that trying so hard was actually attracting the wrong people into my life, I gained even more motivation for kicking the habit. But it is indeed a hard habit to shake. Let's talk a little bit about why. So people-pleasing is a hard habit to shake because it's actually a survival mechanism, meaning we do it because we believe our lives depend on it. It's also important to understand that our survival-based beliefs and behaviors are trauma responses, likely originating from childhood. So if a child is made to feel like they need to earn what should be given to them by caregivers automatically, that is traumatic. And trauma affects not just our thoughts and beliefs, but also the physical body. Often our body will respond with action before our thoughts can catch up. This is why setting a hard and fast rule, like the one we're going to cover in this course, is one of the most effective ways to heal. because we have to give our present day physical body a reason to stop unhealthy behaviors, despite what our ingrained thoughts and beliefs are telling it to do. It's the new actions that we take that then help to unravel the old thoughts and beliefs, which sounds backward, but it works. And it's actually one of the things that sets my Rehab for Everyone methodology apart from other healing and personal development approaches. And lastly, people-pleasing is a dysfunctional behavior we've falsely and even subconsciously connected to our self-worth and safety. And even if it's not something you think a lot about, feelings of unworthiness and fear of abandonment are very painful. And it's natural, even instinctual, to do whatever we can to move away from emotional pain. Kicking the people-pleaser habit may be challenging, and there are valid reasons for why it's challenging, but it's well worth the effort to heal our inner wounds, transform our beliefs, and improve our behaviors, because it all leads to a better life. Now, I want to provide a bit more context for people-pleasing by sharing with you how it used to show up for me. So, the people-pleaser in me used to show up as a burst of excitement at the idea of doing something for someone. Whether it was giving away a dress I never had a chance to wear, or offering to babysit for free to make a relative's life easier, or giving gifts and trinkets for no reason at all. The thought of doing something for someone or to impress someone gave me this overwhelming feeling of hope. This hopeful feeling came with a subtle, autopilot-like visualization of the appreciation and closeness I'd receive as a result. Describing it that way sounds creepy, right? That's because it kind of is. The harsh reality is that people-pleasing is manipulation due to low self-worth, cloaked in do-gooder-helper mentality. There's literally no other way around it. And I don't say this to make us recovering people-pleasers feel badly. Rather, I want to increase awareness of the fact that it's an utterly useless tactic. People-pleasing is a dysfunctional behavior that perpetuates the cycle of dysfunctional relationships. Of course, at the time, I had no awareness of the dysfunctional nature of my people-pleaser tendency. I was just going with what felt right and good, and that was doing nice things for people. The first red flag was realizing it never felt right and good afterward. People-pleasing always left me feeling disappointed, exhausted, and even a bit resentful because the person on the receiving end never responded the way I envisioned they would. Either they weren't as happy or appreciative in the moment, or they were, but it didn't translate into the improved relationship status I was going for. The dynamic always remained one-sided, with me giving and them taking. And there was always a part of me that thought it just felt good to do something nice for someone else, and that's the confusing part of all this. It is indeed nice to do things for people, but not when there's A, no existing socio-interpersonal contract or request for such an exchange, and or B, there's an expectation of something in return, even if it's just acknowledgement and appreciation or some enhancement to the relationship status. Let's break A and B down a bit more because this stuff's important. So A, what do I mean by a socio-interpersonal contract or request? By socio-interpersonal contract, I mean there's an existing tradition or agreement for gift giving or exchange of energy. In other words, you are not coming up with the idea to give something away yourself. Culture or society is. Think birthdays, Christmas, weddings, charity events. Sounds weird, I know, but stick with me here. If you do or give something to someone outside of these standard social or cultural contracts, you are essentially establishing a new contract without informing the other person involved. So, I'll do this for you and I expect you to be happy and appreciative and like me, make me feel good about myself in return. You can see how this is neither balanced nor fair. Now, you could counter me here and say, well, isn't it just nice to do things for people spontaneously or as a surprise just because it feels good to make someone else feel good? And I'd say, not really, because then the giving is still about you, not them. And if I'm honest, I really don't like when people give me things or do things for me outside of the traditional contexts. Rarely do I feel authentically grateful because it wasn't something I identified a need for in my life, so it ends up being extra stuff or extra interactions I wasn't planning for that I now need to fit into my time or physical space. And on top of that, I'm seemingly forced to step into a polite demeanor to express gratitude for something I didn't ask for. It feels controlling because it is. Anyway, on to B, and this is where we really need to get honest with ourselves. If you have a thought to do something or give something to someone, what do you expect in return? Another way to ask the question is, what's in it for me? If the answer is truly nothing, you may be in safe territory. In other words, a healthy, mutually giving relationship. But it's such a gray area. At the very minimum, you are probably doing it because you hope it will make you feel good, valued, appreciated, or more secure in your relationship with the other person. If you're early in your journey, the reality of that is probably quite subtle and confusing. It may even come off as an offensive assumption. Now, here's something you really have to remember. People pleasing is actually pretty obvious to people. You're not really tricking anyone with it. Healthy, functional people will run the other way when they come across someone who is people pleasing because it doesn't feel right or balanced to them, and it can come across as quite annoying. And dysfunctional people, namely addicts, people with big egos, and narcissistic types, will notice right away and stick around to take advantage of you. This is why people-pleasing perpetuates the cycle of unhealthy relationships. Your relationships, whether it be romantic or platonic, will not improve until you stop the dysfunctional behavior. Ultimately, what we want are relationships that are mutually giving, in which the exchange of energy naturally ebbs and flows because both parties actually care. So how do we get there? How do we stop people-pleasing and attract healthier relationships? Well, we set a rule or boundary for ourselves and we stick to it. Here's the rule that has worked wonders for me. In my head, it sounds like this. I do not give my time, energy, money, or things away anymore. Period. What that short statement means in reality is, I don't give away my time, money, or possessions outside of special occasions where it's socially or culturally expected to do so. For example, birthday and Christmas gifts, bringing a dish or a bottle of wine to a dinner party, donating my clothes to charity. The only exceptions outside these circumstances are if something is requested of me and I want to fulfill that request, or if someone is in need and wants my help. Trying to help someone who doesn't want to be helped is a big no-no, but that's a topic for another day. Now, I understand that to the people pleaser mind, this will sound harsh and cynical, but this is the way healthy, happy, functional people behave already. They're just not thinking about it because they don't have to. They already know they're likable and worthy and lovable and safe, so they don't attempt to earn those things from people through dysfunctional means. Now, I urge you to keep your interpretation and application of this boundary very cut and dry. Ultimately, what you'll be doing with this boundary is allowing people to like you for you, instead of what you do for them. Those who benefited from your people-pleasing will most likely become confused, frustrated, or uninterested. Let those people go and make room for authentic relationships. At the beginning, the idea of not giving or doing for others to make them like you will feel like a loss of control. Releasing your people-pleaser habits will force you to sit with the inner wounds you were compensating for. You will indeed need to face your feelings of unworthiness or unlikability, your fear of being alone or abandoned. And as uncomfortable as that may be, it's exactly what you want. You need those feelings and fears to surface so you can address them and heal. This is where it's helpful to work with a therapist or a coach. You'll want support in processing what you feel and why so you can resolve it. Note that the urge to people please will continue to show up. It still does for me. But with this new boundary or rule, you'll be empowering yourself with a method for recognizing the urge. Recognition is awareness, which gives us the opportunity to do better and finally move forward in the healing process. Now, there is a bit of nuance here, and I suspect this part will quell the naysayers. This boundary is not selfish or self-centered. Rather, it's an acknowledgement of the fact that some people, usually those with wounding and trauma from childhood, have a tendency for adding a dysfunctional spin on the exchange of energy between people. People-pleasing is a one-sided dysfunctional behavior. Healthy relationships are multidimensional and absolutely have a giving element to them. When giving and helping occur in a healthy, functional relationship, the mutual exchange of energy, the back and forth, is baked in without expectation. You give because you care. And reciprocation is a proven aspect of the relationship. If you're early in the journey and still struggle with people-pleasing, don't worry about the nuance yet. Just set the boundary for yourself. With discipline and consistency, you'll develop healthier relationships and the perceived need to people-please will dissolve. Yes, it will take practice and you can always expect trial and error along your growth journey. But just keep pushing forward and I think you'll be surprised by how fast positive change comes your way. Okay, so that wraps up this mini crash course on people-pleasing. So, this course is just a tiny example of what we cover in the boundaries component of Rehab for Everyone, specifically boundaries we set with ourselves. Remember, you can learn the basics of Rehab for Everyone and start applying it to your life by downloading the free ebook, which is linked in the description below. Once you download the ebook, you'll be on my mailing list to receive weekly education and class announcements. You'll also be the first to know when I open the doors to the Rehab for Everyone Virtual Health Club, where you'll get unlimited access to self-paced online courses covering the 4 pillars of the methodology: boundaries, movement, exploration, and energetic self-care. training that offers a customizable blueprint for how to structure your daily life to ignite and sustain positive life change, as well as coaching and community support. More on that later. For now, I'd like to say thank you so much for tuning into this mini course. If this content was helpful in any way, I'd love for you to give me a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and definitely consider subscribing. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I will catch you in the next video.